Welcome to Vital Voices, a series of empowering conversations for a healthier tomorrow with Plumas District Hospital professionals. Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome to a new edition of Vital Voices, and our host for today's program is Plumas District Hospital's Public Relations Director, Sierra Blanton.
I'm excited to introduce the two guests we have here with us today. Jeff Keppel and Dale Morgan, two key roles in the Sierra Nevada Conservation and Wilderness Medicine Conference. It sounds like you're celebrating your 6th annual conference this year. Very exciting. And we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about what the conference will be bringing this year. Would you take a minute to just introduce both of yourselves? Tell us about your role in the conference and in the community. We'll start with you, Dr. Keppel.
You bet. Thank you, Sierra. Yeah, it was 2017 that I met Dr. Zena. She's an ER doc that did a wilderness medicine fellowship at Stanford. And I have had a long interest in wilderness medicine and went to my first conference in medical school in Snowmass, Colorado, and learned that it was a real discipline. It was something that was a specialty even and something that you could become fellowship trained in. So the two of us had this vision of putting on a conference, and we always wanted to have it in a place that was actually a true remote rural area as opposed to a resort where so many of them are, and also to make it affordable. So our vision began with the two of us meeting, putting on that first 2018 conference at Quintopia West End for the first 2 years, and it was a huge success, and we've been able to keep it going ever since.
Amazing. And Dale?
Hi, thank you, Sierra. My name is Dale Morgan. I am the marketing manager and website administrator at Plumas District Hospital. And my role in all of this is facilitating the website for the conference and the whole registration process for people who are interested. I also facilitate a lot of ongoing communication for the conference. It's near and dear to my heart. It's in this beautiful town of Quincy, California, and I'm an outdoor recreation head myself. So, yeah, I like to tango with this conference.
Well said. Talking about the conference and it being local, I know it's a collaborative effort to really make this happen. I know Plumas Healthcare Foundation is a fiscal sponsor and PDH supports in many ways as well. But let's talk about where it's hosted at the UC Berkeley camp up here in Meadow Valley.
Yeah, it took us a while to find a home. The West End Theater was great, but it had its challenges. It wasn't exactly in the middle of a forest either. And so people were camping actually out at the college, and folks were pretty adaptable. But we really wanted to find a home that fit our mission. And I can talk about our mission a little bit later. But UC Berkeley fit that to the T. And so you feel like you're camping, but you also have cabins, but you also have this long legacy of conservation and forestry that has gone on at the UC Berkeley Forestry Camp. And it's just beautiful and quiet and remote. And there's hikes, right out your back door there. So it turned out to be a really good informal setting, but still there's some places to meet and gather that still you could put on a PowerPoint, for example, and have a lecture.
Anything to add, Dale?
I just think it's the perfect place to have a conference of this type. It's in the woods, it's remote. Like Dr. Keppel alluded to, it feels like you're back in summer camp all over again. I think it's just very fitting to have a conservation and wilderness medicine conference venue that melds so well. From hands-on workshops to lectures, this place really just accommodates everything we need in order to put on a great conference. And it's away from cities, it's away from roads. You're out there with the birds and the bees, essentially. So
You mentioned the mission. I would love for you to dive into the mission and really the motivation behind having this conference.
You bet. So if you would have said wilderness medicine back in the early 80s, nobody would have understood what you were talking about. But in 1983, there was a fellow named Dr. Paul Auerbach from Stanford who wrote and edited, along with a number of collaborators, a book called Wilderness Medicine. Huge textbook, very academic, very rigorous, peer-reviewed type studies, putting together a comprehensive textbook on wilderness medicine. And that evolved into what they call wilderness medicine fellowships. It was mainly ER docs and some family physicians that would, after their residency, do a 1 to 2 year fellowship at usually an academic institution in topics related to wilderness medicine. And just to give you a smattering of what those topics would be, the number one topic that started wilderness medicine was mountain medicine. So altitude sickness, particularly Mount Everest. That's where most of the search and rescue and mountain medicine really began. And then it started expanding into all kinds of things like lifts and carries, bites and stings, drownings, things that occur also just in our own backyard, not just in the wilderness, but just in remote settings. And could even be in very low resource settings and the developing world. So there's a real tie-in between wilderness medicine and just what we call remote medicine, where you have to improvise. You have to make do with what you have and use some creativity and some common sense, as well as what you've been trained in. But we also realize you need training. And so we have core wilderness medicine topics. 70% of our curriculum is core wilderness medicine topics. And just to name a few, musculoskeletal injuries, snowboarding, ski injuries, how do you make a good first aid kit and take it into the wilderness? How do you treat bites, stings, and dangerous things? How do you tie knots? It also ties into travel medicine. Travel medicine and wilderness medicine very much go hand in hand. This year, our theme is focusing on heat illness, and our theme title is called The Heat is On. So did I answer your question?
You did, and yeah, please keep talking about, because my next question was the theme, the heat is on, and what we can expect to be, seeing or having the participants experience through that theme.
Since we've been recording temperatures worldwide with multiple data points since 1850, the last 20 years, we've had 10 record years, and actually 2024 was the hottest year on record since 1850. So just undeniable science that we study and really respect in terms of rigor in medicine. The climate science is actually stronger than a lot of the things that we do in medicine. So in facing that, we also are seeing health consequences, not only just in humans, but of course in our whole ecosystem and habitats, etc. It would be remiss of us in medicine to not acknowledge the public health aspect of climate science and how it pertains to human health. And we've experienced some of the consequences in our own community, as complex as, for example, fire science is and our forests are. And yes, we need forest thinning. A huge data point is that because of changing climate, our forests are more at risk for catastrophic wildfire. And that's impacted us in huge public health ways. So we've had panels in our wilderness medicine conference representing a spectrum of perspectives, all the way from the timber industry to those people in the Firewise program, to foresters, to firefighters, speaking about fire and how it impacts human health, but also how we can help mitigate those consequences.
That's very impressive, and I think really engaging for a lot of people to want to learn more about, especially knowing that you guys offer this to a very diverse audience from healthcare professionals, non-healthcare professionals.
Absolutely. I'm happy to touch on this. So as someone who isn't a dedicated patient-facing healthcare professional, I work in an administrative role. I still have a deep love and passion for outdoor recreation, and skills like this apply to any person who is interested in those sorts of activities, whether you're a hiker, whether you're a mountaineer, or you're a kayaker on a river. These skills provide so many assets and tools that you can use to not only help yourself when you're out in the backcountry exploring, but also gives you the opportunity to really help somebody else if they're in need. Something that I also think is cool about the conservation side of the Wilderness Medicine Conference is that in order to provide, outstanding care when you're in the wilderness, part of that is also understanding the environment you're going into. And things like heat, changing temperatures, we're talking about ecosystems that themselves are changing. And in order to prepare yourself and to be an asset to yourself if need be, or to help somebody in need, having an understanding of how these changing temperatures affect these environments and your ability to help people in these environments, I think is very valuable. So even if you're not taking care of patients, there's still a lot of opportunity to really make sure that you are safe and the people that you are adventuring with are safe out there.
When people hear medicine conference, I think they automatically assume it needs to be tailored to a medical professional. But looking at your diverse audience of registrants, you offer this to non-medical professionals. Can you kind of talk about how this really benefits a wide range of participants that don't handle patient care?
There are plenty of wilderness medicine conferences out there, and they're pretty much tailored to physicians. And a lot of those physicians are retired physicians that can afford to go to a resort in Santa Fe or Big Sky, Montana. I've been to one in Big Sky, Montana. It's an amazing conference, but it was pretty much all docs. And our conference attracts a lot of medical students, residents, paramedics, EMTs, even some nurses. We've had ultrasound techs and respiratory therapists. So it is truly multidisciplinary. And we do that by making it affordable and having a sliding scale fee schedule.
Great. Yeah, I wanted to kind of touch on that. I know that this is a big collaboration of sorts, and you look for sponsorships, and I want to know how that plays into keeping it affordable for students and for participants.
Sure. There's just no way that a medical student or a paramedic is going to be able to afford most conferences out there. And so we had to say, how can we subsidize? And how can we break even and subsidize this conference? Our goal is not to make money. It's to keep it going and have it be something that goes on year after year. And that's where generosity of Plumas District Hospital has come in terms of loaning us quite a bit of staff and expertise. And then also Plumas Healthcare Foundation and being our 501c3 as an incredible host to all the financial mechanisms involved in this conference. So, for example, having Dale and his expertise on the website and all the communications, there's just no way that we could have done it without Plumas District Hospital and the Healthcare Foundation. But in addition to that, we've sought partners, and one of our biggest partners this year is Partnership Healthcare, who have sponsored us with $10,000, and they plan to do that every year, primarily because they, as a health payer, believe it or not, really want this type of training to go out, and they really care about patients. It's amazing to be working with a healthcare payer in the Medi-Cal space that actually tangibly care so much about patients and what they're getting in their communities.
That's amazing. Glad to hear that kind of support is coming in too, because I know that's going to be crucial to keeping the conference ongoing and what a big impact that amount of money will make.
So we are very reliant on sponsors to keep this conference affordable. As Dr. Keppel reiterated, we're not here to make a buck. We are here to make these skills and this knowledge as accessible as possible to as many people, whether you're working in healthcare or not. So we rely on sponsorships from companies like Partnership or CareStar and many others to achieve these goals.
Talking about collaboration, I know that there's a very diverse collaboration on the team that makes this happen as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about the corners of assets you have on your team to pull this conference off?
So we have a lot of people who work really hard to make this conference as fantastic as it is. We have people who are working on just building the program and the curriculum for the conference, people who are tracking down presenters and people who are, going to be the main educational assets for this conference. We have people who work on the logistics, the planning. We have a whole fantastic volunteer group that helps us in facilitating, welcoming registrants into the conference itself, helping us set up, tear down,
put on happy hours.
A very important point.
Very important.
There's just so many people from across Plumas District Hospital to some of our community members. I mean, we have some people on our committee that are halfway across the state or halfway across the country. So it's a really cool, diverse, multidisciplinary team that comes together to make this all happen.
So just kind of looking to the future, what are the goals for this conference? What are your hopes of, what the next 6 years would hold?
I think we want to make sure that we pick relevant conservation themes. There'll always be this core 70% curriculum of core wilderness medicine skills. But the 30% where we're trying to tie in relevant conservation themes, we spend quite a bit of time debating among ourselves, what is the theme for the year? We've done fire. We've gone out in the woods with foresters and actually looked at replanting and been able to get actually continuing medical education credit for some of those field trips, believe it or not, because we've been able to demonstrate the tie-in between human health and forest health, that there is actually data out there. Next year, we're looking very seriously at the theme of food scarcity, food grown locally, and food grown in remote locations and shipped to us, and the global conservation impacts of those kinds of things. So food will probably be the theme next year, but we want to be very strategic and relevant in how we pick that conservation theme.
I think we are always just looking for a sweet spot when it comes to the themes that we pick. We want to make sure that, like Dr. Keppel said, we're hitting all the key points of wilderness medicine through the majority of the conference. But when we're picking our theme, we really want it to be this intersectionality that ties together with the conservation theme in mind. And I think that's what makes us different, and it's what sets us apart. And I think it's a reason why a lot of people like our conference.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a very thoughtful, intentional, behind-the-scenes planning committee that you guys have. So I just wanted, if I'm a listener or interested in becoming a sponsor of the event or a participant of the conference, where would I go to find all that information?
You can reach out to me, Dale Morgan, directly. I've got a great email. It's dmorgan@pdh.org. And I'm happy to facilitate any sort of sponsorships if you are an organization wanting to get involved with us, or if you are a person interested in registering for this event, I'd be able to help you out in any way. You can also find information on our conference website, which is pdh.org/wilderness conference.
Which you could also just type in Google Sierra Nevada Conservation and Wilderness Medicine Conference, and you'll get there as well.
That's the better way.
Yeah.
Do that.
Is there anything else you want listeners, community members to know about this conference?
I think about what distinguishes us from other wilderness medicine conferences. And I've already touched on them, but just to reiterate a little bit, number one is we really wanted to make it affordable. And then second, we really wanted to attract multidisciplinary healthcare professionals, as well as those that just have an interest in the outdoors and want to learn about how to take care of people in remote settings. But then last, we are the only wilderness medicine conference that I know of that actually is an educational conference that provides what we call continuing medical education that's accredited. We are accredited typically through the University of Nevada, Reno. And that means there's some rigor that has to be associated with that. But that actually has a conservation emphasis. We're committed to that, knowing that there is an intersection between conservation, public health, and just individual human health.
When can our listeners or interested registrants register for this event?
I'm glad you asked. It is open right now. So you can go onto our website or Google us at Sierra Nevada Conservation and Wilderness Medicine Conference, and you can register today.
Great. For listeners, one more time, what are the dates of this year's conference?
It'll be September 5th through the 7th this year.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. I'm looking forward to you guys celebrating your 6th year and for this conference just be growing and getting better every year.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thanks for listening to Vital Voices, a production of KQNY Community Affairs Programming. More information about PDH is available at pdh.org. The views expressed in this program are those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Plumas Community Radio. Comments on KQNY programming are most welcome, and we can be reached through our website at kqny919.org.
Plumas District Hospital and the Plumas District Hospital Foundation are both longtime supporters of Plumas Community Radio.